firm to help us with a survey that's going to be going out to the community in the next couple of weeks as we seek to take the temperature of our registered voters within the proposed boundary. And the proposed boundary is basically Placer County from the shores of the west and north of Lake Tahoe up to the town boundary of the town of Truckee. That's essentially it. So this is a pretty serious effort. Some of you who've been around for a while know that the wave has gone up the proposed incorporation shore a couple of times. I think the wave is up the shore farther than ever before. We have a pretty serious group assembled. We are raising money, and we're going to move forward. We think the time is right for this, and so I just wanted to make sure that this board was aware. At some point in the future, perhaps we'd be invited to make a more formal presentation to you all. That would be up to you, but we'd be happy to do that at any time that you would like. This is a fairly aggressive timeline. We are hoping to be on the ballot with a measure in November of next year. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Steve. Any other public comment for items not on the agenda tonight? All right, seeing none, we're going to close public comment and move on to our consent agenda. Would anybody on the board like to pull an item from consent?
I don't want to pull anything, but I do think that more than one porta potty is needed.
Does anybody else want to pull an item here? Okay. Does anybody from staff want to pull an item from the agenda, or from the consent?
No, we do not.
No. Anyone from the public want to pull an item from consent? Okay, do we,
I'll make a motion, we approve all the items on the consent agenda.
we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Consent passes. Thank you. Action item number 5, Apron A2 Reconstruction Contract Award. Rob, are you taking that?
I have our Director of Operations, Vince, is going to lead this discussion. We can hold that slide for later. Thank you. This is staff report for now.
Good evening, board. Here to talk to you about the work we've done on Reconstruct Apron A2, where we are and where we'd like to go. Very quickly in the background of this, there's a couple pages in here. I'll go through it quick. Apron A2 has been identified on our maintenance plan for pavement as having subbase failures by 2026. So it's at risk based on engineering analysis over the past 5 years. More critically, though, the way it's constructed, it's subject to critical failure. It's being overloaded by the aircraft that are currently using it. So in addition to the stress that it's accumulating, we're risking a critical failure, meaning a puncture of that surface. And this is the reason why we presented this as needing to be done this year. Where we are, March 12th, we finished engineering, published biddable plans. We held a pre-bid meeting March 27th. Sealed bids were collected on April 16th. And in the staff brief are the 6 bidders. McGuire Hester at $4,860,079 is the low bid. Damon of Brandley Engineering has gone through his bid and finds it satisfactory and approves it for use. So that's the bid we're recommending. You can see 2 schedules as part of that bid, a Schedule A and a Schedule B. What we did there was to consider doing it all at once or breaking it into 2 halves so that we had half the ramp to use during that critical July phase. So we had some criteria in there, a 5% difference in price, less than 3 weeks extension. We've met that, and we recommend going with Schedule A. We recommend the motion to award to McGuire and Hester, and there are some additional costs, and I'm ready to discuss them. Actually, let me back up. There are some costs that did not appear in the October cost estimate for this project. We now have a total cost that would be sponsor participation of $4.1 million with a total cost of $5.5 million. So there are some cost differences, and we're ready to discuss them now.
Okay. Clarifying questions, Greg?
For the RFP, was this lowest cost technically feasible, or what's the, like, why is the lowest cost bidder the recommendation? Was there any judgment made on the quality of the bids? Clear on what the judgment, like the award criteria
Okay.
were.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll jump in on that. I'm David Brantley, the design engineer in the district for everything on there. It's a federally funded project, well, partially there. Everything has to be low bid, and they have to meet the specifications of the plans that are out there. All the bidders, they do submit their qualifications of past projects that they've done in the past, and so they've shown that and have met that requirement as well. So, but everything is low bid when you're doing it that way.
Okay. Thank you.
Kat, do you have any clarifying questions? Teresa? Mary?
Just a couple comments. But not questions.
Okay, then let's open public comment. On this item, we have any public comment?
Actually, I do have a quick question. The thing that you sent yesterday about financing, when do we talk about that?
Based on a decision today, we will go back to our consultant that got quotes for us, preliminary quotes, and get a hard quote for the amount we want to finance based on the award today. The full amount is our expectation to be financed, and we should have that back to the next board meeting in May for consideration for adoption or modification
Of how
So-
we're gonna pay for it?
of how we're going to pay for it, right?
Okay.
Fully financed or something less than that, but we'll plan on having a fully financed quote for that, for our out-of-pocket cost.
I realize I do have one question on this. So we had a letter from the FAA committing to their part of this funding, and I'm just wondering how, is that legally binding, or are we just cautiously hopeful?
I think that's a solid confirmation and meets all past practice, even recently of FAA living to their commitments of money that they've have earmarked that's not subject to recall at this time.
Okay.
I can shed a little bit more
Yeah.
light on that if you want. There was two buckets there, if you scroll up, or I guess it's down the next page a little bit.
Yes.
The $1,163,000 that's there, that's AIG funding, that is in
Yeah, that one.
Truckee's bank account with FAA. So that is there, and the other $249,000 is entitlement money, so it's also there. You're not competing with other airports for it or anything else. It's there for you to use. If you approve this, we move forward with the project, we're gonna have applications into FAA in the next 2 days, probably, to get the ball rolling on that.
So what the FAA office is telling us, the AD offices, is that money is there in their account for us at the FAA and ready to be distributed to us on a reimbursement basis as soon as we file for it.
Awesome.
But spend our own money first, then we apply to get it back.
Okay. Board deliberations, any discussion on this? Mary, you said you had something you wanted to start.
My two comments were, this is awesome that you got this letter ahead of time. I've never seen this before on getting FAA money, and I just want to say that is a really good idea, particularly in this climate. And the other thing is just noting that the heating that's going in on the north side is cost $600,000. That's included in the 4 point, or 5 point, whatever, but it is at $600,000 to put that heating system in. That was my only comment.
Teresa, any comments? No. Greg?
Further.
Kat?
Nope.
Okay, do we have a motion?
And there's a sample motion at the end there.
I don't have it.
I move to award McGuire and Hester Company the contract for reconstruction of apron A2 as presented for a contract price of $4,860,079 and authorize the general manager to sign the necessary documents for the contract award of the project.
Second?
Was that a second?
No, I'm asking for a second.
Seconded. And it was ambiguous.
Sorry about that. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6, consideration of the general manager's merit increase and performance bonus. We did have a closed session before this meeting in which we decided to award our general manager a bonus of $12,453. Do we have any public comment on that? Do I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Item number 7, the 2025 UC Davis Noise and Emissions Symposium recap and next steps. Who's taking that one?
That would be me.
Go, Jeff.
Yes. So there's a staff report in here discussing noise. We sent we're calling it a delegation. Director Horvath, community member Tal Fletcher, our noise IT, Kay, Rob went to the conference. All of us met once. Smaller groups have met numerous times since then to try to just reassess where we're at in terms of how we deal with noise and annoyance within the community, how we communicate it, what's in the art of the possible. And so on the first page, as soon as Lauren gets it up, there were 3 areas of consensus across the board that everyone agreed that these are areas where we could make some potential progress or areas to address. One was in the actual noise abatement itself. There was agreement that most of the low-hanging fruit was kind of picked. There are maybe some things we can do to improve our noise abatement procedures, but there's probably not a lot. But we will look at those. The second area to look at was technology integration. There's a lot of emerging new technologies of using AI and various data sets in real-time synchronization in terms of communicating with the community with noise. And then the third area of consensus was this, I think, was highlighted when we had the ACT meeting where we made a major effort to reach out to the community. We filled the room, but a better effort in terms of noise education, what's in the art of possible, what can we do, what is out of our control. So those were the 3 areas of consensus. What we are recommending is a 3-phased approach. The first would be starting this summer. And I have them labeled A through F. Each of those are, I'll say, specific actions, specific meaning noun and verb, but we will try to do them. Don't have the name of the vendor, don't have a cost associated with it, but we want to explore it. So the first would be research and evaluate a modern complaint inquiry systems using some type of, using the term broadly, but some type of AI integration. The second would be exploring the implementation of a virtual noise modeling program. So there are noise modeling programs now. I think we can get pretty quick, easy access to it, such as if an aircraft flies over your house, there's enough information technology and databases that we can tell that resident that was a 28 decibel event lasting 18 seconds based on weather, et cetera, and we can do that as real time. It's a real-time query. The information's available. The third item, C, would be to automate a near real-time targeted response to noise inquiries. Right now, I would say we have a sophisticated, is maybe an overstatement, but we have a modern intake system, but there's a human in the loop to get that response to you. And typically, depending on when it is, it's 1 to 4 days before we get back to you, as opposed to an automated system. As soon as you make the inquiry, there's some companies, vendors out there that automatically pull the data, and you can kind of adjust the dial to where it automatically sends the response to the resident, like, thank you, Mrs. Smith. That was a PC-12 over your house, noise modeling data. That was a 32 decibel event, It appears to be in accordance with our noise abatement procedures, but it could automatically go out within a couple minutes, or maybe we have a human in the loop to review that before it goes out. So there's some options there. The next is item Delta. What we'd like to do is our current landing fee system, the vendor is called Vector, and they have landing fee data. Talking to a couple other vendors out there, it's probably something Vector could do as well. When you're the vendor doing landing fee, and right now we're getting like 99 point something of all landing fees. I mean, you talk to multiple vendors, it's 99 to 100% recuperation of the landing fees and ramp fees. They have really good data on the owner operators, the pilots, the flight departments. And there's at least one vendor I'm aware of that has discussed using the exquisite data we have on who's operating the aircraft with the exquisite data, the ADSB, all the data that's real-time available, and merging those two. So if you have all the information on who's flying the aircraft, because we do get the money from them effectively all the time, is there a way to real-time, if I'm taking off runway 02 within minutes or later that day, or with my billing invoice to say, Mr. Manasco, thank you for taking off on runway 02 and in accordance with our noise abatement procedures. You've flown here 8 times, always thank you. Or if not in accordance with our noise abatement procedures, Mr. Manasco, thank you for visiting Truckee. There's an educational opportunity. There are better ways to depart here based on winds, weather, et cetera, to directly engage with that pilot in some type of more real-time or on a billing basis. That has not been done by any other airports, but there's one vendor that's interested in exploring that space, and potentially with us. Item E would be to initiate quarterly Airport Community Act meetings surrounding noise. And then the last item is to explore what we want to do with the full-time noise position. That position is going to be vacant. Kay is going to transition from that to a seasonal employee based on personal circumstances in life. So that position will be vacant here as of day after tomorrow. So those, for this first phase, the exploration, just because I mention it doesn't mean we're going to do it or it's feasible or a cost, but those over the summer and into the fall, those are the items we'd like to explore. Phase 2 is A through F, and it would be making decisions that these would, we'd have further discussions. We'd have to look at our budget to see what we would implement, and that would be this fall into next spring. And then phase 3 would be looking at integration or potentially expanding the program and potentially fielding actual noise monitoring systems, working with the town and doing some type of noise study with the community, not just looking at aircraft noise, but looking at Interstate 80, traffic, rail, river. In my judgment, while anything is possible with the noise position going vacant and wanting to explore the entire space, I think us fielding, doing some type of wider noise study with the community, with the town this summer would be a pretty heavy lift. What we are recommending is we go with the phase 1, phase 2, depending on how that goes, potentially next summer, if we are interested in doing fielding actual noise sensors, we would do that next summer. But we explore these options first. I will pause there for any questions, comments, and everyone that was in the delegation, Tal's here tonight, Greg's here tonight, everyone is here, so if there's anything being left unsaid from the conference or our discussions, please, maybe before we go to questions back to board president, if there's anyone from the delegation that would like to add anything, Greg, or, I'm sorry.
No, if I just can add on there before Greg goes, this is a discussion item, so this is our thoughts at this point for phase 1, more solid, to get board feedback, public feedback on this approach. Of course, phase 2 and phase 3 would be dependent on successful completion of phase 1, and we'd be revisiting this in conversation before we move forward with any other phases.
Okay. Greg, did you have something to add to that?
This is comprehensive. Thank you. Yeah, nothing major to add. Are we commenting as well, or am I just adding?
Either talk about what you did there, or we can go into clarifying questions.
We can move into clarifying questions.
Ready to go. Do you have any clarifying questions?
Yes.
Go.
Yeah, I mean, only clarifying questions, no comments.
Yeah, at this point, and then we'll get public
No,
comment.
no clarifying questions at the moment.
Kat, do you have any clarifying questions? Teresa?
I'm not sure if it's clarifying, I guess it is. If we do all this and it's all successful, I understand that pilots will get live data on how to be more fly quiet friendly. But other than that, what will this do for us? What is the actionable item that will come out of this effort?
In a perfect world, if we were exceptionally successful, we'd have improved communications with the community, potentially better communications with pilots with some type of near real time that hasn't been done anywhere. That would be, a quote, another first. And ideally, back to the 3 areas of consensus, better community education, potentially understanding. At the end of the day, when someone registers a complaint, it's an emotional reaction. And I don't think there's anything at the end of the day that we can do to, stop or prevent or help that emotional response other than education and being as transparent as possible. But at the end of the day, fast forward 18 months from now, maybe we'll have fewer noise complaints. Maybe we'll have, the community will feel more trusted. My experience, we're very transparent. Everyone comes in. We tell them this is what we can do, this is what we can't do. And they leave underwhelmed and angry or upset that we can't do more.
I would only offer a comment. I don't know if this is the time, but.
We can get a comment later.
Okay, comment later.
Mary, clarifying questions?
Hmm.
Keep it moving.
I guess I would put mine under comments as well.
Okay, do we have any public comment? Mr. Fletcher, did you want to speak about your experience there
From the podium or from here?
from the podium?
Sure. I mean, I'll just say it here.
Just the microphone since we're on camera. Thank you, Tal.
Well, I'm going to get up and say I don't have anything to say in front of the podium.
Then don't.
I can follow rules. Local neighbor and attendee of the noise conference. I thought it was great. I also thought the sustainable fuel component of the same conference was great, and I'd love to talk about that as well. I don't have a prepared comment other than thank you for including me. Thanks for making me part of the discussion. I thought we had a great follow-up meeting a couple weeks ago. And I think it's great that the airport is taking a really proactive stance, including some budget to send a guy like me down to talk about noise in Vegas. I feel like the airport has done and probably will continue to do a lot more than our peer airports. I don't have data to support that, but just from talking to other pilots that are based at other similar airports, I think this airport's doing more than any of the peer airports that, as far as I can tell. I think it's going to be a problem forever, which is maybe bad news to some folks, but I don't think it's a problem or an issue that we can solve down to zero. But I'm proud of a lot of people in this room for making the attempts that they've made and trying to find a balance between operating an airport where there's going to be noise and living in a community where there's people who don't like noise. I think it's a really tricky problem to solve, but I'm glad that a lot of people in this room are taking it seriously. Mild disappointment that none of the people who have been so vocally critical of the noise situation attended the meeting. I think it was offered to everyone in the community, and lots of people were at the meeting a couple weeks before that, and I imagine there are people who would have benefited a lot from attending the meeting and learning the reality of what can and can't be done. I think there's people who they make their votes every 2 years for seats on this board based on noise, and I think there might be a degree of misunderstanding about how much can actually be done from these 5 seats here or from the seats here in terms of solving the problem that they're so seemingly upset about. And it would have been great for at least one of those people to attend. So I've already volunteered to go to the next one. I'm happy to do that, and I'd love to have someone that maybe is on the other side of the issue also join, because I think they'd learn a lot about what's possible and what's not. So that's my non-comment. Thanks.
Thank you. Board, any other public comment? Board deliberation. Teresa?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a deliberation, it's just a comment that I think that an automated response isn't going to make anybody who's passionate about their noise complaint happy, and I would encourage us to have a human being address that as quickly as possible. Because if it was me, I mean, we all hate getting into those press 5 for this, press 2 for that, like, you just get frustrated and angry. So I would not suggest that, but that's just my comment at this point.
Kat?
Yeah, I would echo that. When I talk to people who make noise complaints, and I'm one of those people, it's really important to hear a human voice because it is an emotional response. And I've been to the noise conference twice, and my biggest takeaway both times was it's subjective and it's emotional. And I think the automation for the noise piece of it would feel a little bit like a slap in the face for people who really have an understanding as well. It's a very difficult job. I mean, I've seen Mike Cook do it. I've seen DBQ do it. I've seen Kay do it. I mean, you can't stay in that job for very long. So that might be, a discussion, how to break up that that particular position. I am fascinated by the what Jeff was talking about, the real-time communication with the pilots and getting feedback on whether you followed the noise procedures. I think that education piece, we've talked about this many times, is really the best thing we can do right now, having sort of eliminated a lot of low-hanging fruit. And I'm really conflicted about noise monitoring. We've done that before. When we were on ACAT, we had a whole year lease, I think, wasn't it, Mike? What do you do with that data? I mean, we all have phones. We can download half a dozen apps that will give us the decibel of whatever just flew over. And so, I mean, frankly, what we had found back when we did noise studies is that the most noise is over our airfield. People are bothered by much lower levels of decibels, depending on the person. How do you respond to that, though? I mean, there's nothing we can do. The FAA doesn't care. We don't have enough traffic here. We don't have any noise that exceeds the limits, that's off of our airfield, or very, very little. I wonder if that, raises some expectations. I don't know. It just seems like we've gone down this road before. We've spent a lot of money on it. Maybe that's not the way to go.
Greg?
So I've heard that line of reasoning several times. And my concern is we're doing a thing, which is trying to monitor the noise. And based on the ACT meeting and other points, it doesn't seem like that's being done effectively. So if we're going to claim to do noise monitoring, my sense is that we should try and do it well. We should try and do it objectively. We should try and get some data. So I was definitely, I'm definitely pushing on this. Obviously, this is a topic that's relevant for me in the sense that it's a major point of my whole campaign in terms of running. And I hear the argument of, well, what's actionable out of this? And I think what's actionable out of this will depend on what data we get. Because right now the community feels like their only method for having an impact is voting for people on the board. So they only get to have a say on how this gets talked about on a 2-year basis. So it seems like a step in the right direction to, there's a lot of disagreement about how much of a nuisance is noise. How much, what is the magnitude of that nuisance? And we have a system right now that requires voluntary engagement, and based on the ACT meeting, a community that does not feel that is an accurate measurement of their nuisance. So my thought is, to kind of build on what Jeff put together here, I think that at a minimum, the phase 1 exploration is really important here to see what we can accomplish at what cost. Because the community doesn't feel heard based on the data that I have and knocking on a lot of doors. They don't feel heard at all. And maybe our options are limited, but getting an accurate measurement of the problem, I think, is an important step in that direction.
Mary?
Remembering way back when NetJets, a contingent of us went to NetJets in Columbus, and in response to that, NetJets developed their own special. And so one idea is in phase 1 is, how are we reaching out to chief pilots, or specific pilots who come here a lot? And can they be more trained up? If NetJets is willing to spend their staff time to develop a special for their pilots, I would hope that other corporate chief pilots could do something like that, and I would like that to be part of phase 1. Another idea that this had come up is joining with other resort communities to, we're all facing these issues in different levels. And there's power in joint effort and making contact with those other resort communities who are heavily impacted by noise and annoyance and air emissions is of value. So I would like to see something done with that. One other idea is that, everything's tied to this 65 dBA, and that is on field, but somehow addressing the number per hour of aircraft going off 29. Because during peak periods of time, I do believe that because we have the tower and we have flow, that now people are experiencing an overflight by a heavy aircraft every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes. Not that we can necessarily change that, but we should have that metric to know what that neighborhood is experiencing. Martis Valley Estates, Ponderosa is what I'm talking about, or Olympic Heights. Those two neighborhoods are so heavily impacted. And to have that metric number, I think would be valuable. And it would be valuable in terms of that, speaking with those folks in that community to have a real thing. One of the ideas that came up during that ACT meeting was evaluating a noise barrier at the end of 1-1, just like there's one over here at the jet ramp. And I think looking into that as an option would be, one of the people said, yeah, even when they, Martin Line is very good at taking off when wind is good to go off on 1-1, but they get the blowback. But if you could put a barrier there that wouldn't interfere with approach, that would be something that could be addressed, and I would like that to be evaluated. So those are other ideas. I think I echo with Teresa and Kat. It is a difficult position, and I don't know, for probably 9 months of the year, it's not as much, or for 6 months of the year, do we need to have a noise person. But during the summertime, when those aircraft are, and when it feels constant, or at least maybe on the Friday through Monday morning, that period is crucial. And I did appreciate Kat's comment in terms of, and in phase 1 where you're talking the real-time targeted response, because it's education of the community, but there's also education of the pilots. And that's a critical piece. And when we are conveying information to the community, it can't come across as transmit only. It needs to also be we receive. We are aware of the difficulties, this is what we're doing, and we are also trying to educate our users. So those would be my thoughts.
Thanks. I agree with all of you. Everybody made really, really good points here. On the education thing, I'm a big proponent of the education element because I do believe that the vast majority of us pilots are decent people who, given the knowledge of what our impact is, will voluntarily do what we can to reduce that. And so I do feel like the ongoing, if this can somehow flow into increased education for my fellow pilots, I would find it easier to support that. Because I do agree with Teresa, the idea of in this day and age of getting an automated response where you're really keeping in mind that the vast majority of people who are going to be making noise comments don't really understand how most of this works. So that nuance of a nice, friendly voice like Kay or DVQ or Mike or Mary could be beneficial to that. To Kat's point, we did noise monitor before, and it was frustrating to us because we collected a bunch of data that the FAA said wasn't actionable because it wasn't bad enough, which is a horrible thing. You can't say that to your community. Look, it's as bad as it is. It's not bad enough for us to be able to do anything about this. But that in mind, that was years ago. So if something is better today, I would say if we've got better technologies today and they could feed into improved education for our pilots, something that we maybe focus a Fly Safe seminar or something on, I could support this. I did think about, as we were talking about this, do we have any idea what in phase one, what kind of money we'd be talking about?
I think in phase one, it would be exploratory. Initial numbers with one vendor, if we were to deploy a NOMS system, would be $50,000 up front and about $3,000 a month once it's in the field. So if you were to do a 6-month field trial, maybe all said and done, $75,000 to $100,000 for a 6-month NOMS study. That was only with one vendor. There are multiple vendors we'd go out to, but we just kind of fielded one for what something like this would look like. I think with the RFP, there's an opportunity because we've been using Vector very successfully for 3 years. They're doing exactly what we have them on contract for. They do collect landing fees. We get 99 to 100% of everything paid. But there are some options to use that data to potentially communicate. So I think phase one is a staff time cost, not necessarily a fielding systems. I think phase one is the exploration. Phase two is where we begin potentially signing contracts or using different systems. The other piece is what we do with the noise position based on the conversation this evening. And it's a difficult position to fill. It's a challenging position to talk to community members that are upset, and often there's very little to nothing to do when 85% of the phone calls, complaints are everything happened as advertised. The aircraft was on center line, on glide slope, on airspeed at 1 p.m. in the afternoon. Everything was perfect. But that community member, rightfully so, not trying to get in their head or judge their emotional response, but for them, they responded. So back to the noise position, it's talking to people, 85% of the time, like, I understand. It's almost like being a little bit more of a therapist in the sense that there's nothing I can do, but, I'm here to talk and let me share more information. Here's more data, but there's nothing we can do because what bothered you is exactly what was supposed to happen. We don't have a lot of deviant aviators doing things purposefully or even by accident that are generating lots of noise complaints. The vast majority of the noise complaints are coming from normal everyday events that are not out of the ordinary. In fact, they're exactly where we want them to be, which is just a really hard reality, and I'm just being really transparent, which makes that position very difficult to do long-term to short-term. Maybe there is an option for seasonality of it to not make it so trying.
Okay. What specifically are you looking for from us?
I think that was the broad direction. That feedback was very helpful, I think, for us right now, unless there's no actionable items here today. But that guidance and feedback, there's some consensus here across a couple areas that we could take away and put together a plan, do some pricing, and come back with some updated reports, perhaps as early as next month, on next steps. Expected cost.
Anything else from the board on this?
Just my thought about investigating a noise barrier, did that get on the list, or is that something that
I'm
just?
interested in that, for sure.
Yeah, I would be interested in that from the cost perspective and also from the, what would we expect in terms of a noise reduction and what kind of aircraft would be most impacted by that?
Sure, we can look at that. I don't know, we'll have that back next month, but
Okay.
certainly in the
To
future.
have something on that.
Right.
And then in terms of gathering the data in the AVCOM report, we get the bulk number of operations for the month, but we don't have them broken out in terms of numbers per hour or, when you get X number during.
Density.
Density.
Yep.
And I think I would like to see some sort of density numbers on these heavy days, on the Friday night and Sunday night and Monday morning. Those seem to be our big times, and so it informs us as a board of what those folks are really experiencing. And I see value in that.
Do you want to, for the strategy meeting, when we talk about the reports and what we want to see from the reports, can you
Okay.
add that to your list? And
Sure.
we can bring it up. All right.
Great.
Let's close that item and go on to item 8, board committee assignments and ad hoc committee reports. Lauren, I guess, do you want to start that?
We had housing first, and Lauren, if you had comments or updates on that?
Yeah, I wrote a pretty in-depth summary of our last strategic, it was a special workshop. The board decided that the Alder Creek development site is an appropriate development project for the JPA to harness and explore further. And we directed staff to write up an RFP to search for a bond consultant to give us more of an in-depth fiscal analysis of the potential development project and different cost scenarios based off of the project build, how many units, if it's going to be phased, how many other potential JPA members might want to partner in on the project. So I think staff is doing that right now, and it'll be posted for 30 days. And so we won't have any of those reports back for the next couple of months. But T2SD is super excited. We're excited about it. It's a really good potential project that can address workforce housing, specifically provide continuity of teachers needing homes and other potentially wider community members that fit within the AMI spread. We also finalized our policy platform, and I have some notes right here. Where it now emphasizes housing. So we have contracted with SBC to monitor all the bills that are coming before California, and we will only express support towards policy that fits within our policy platform that all agency members all agree to. So we meshed, the jurisdictions, Nevada and Placer County and Town of Truckee all have their own policy platform. So we took their policy platforms and sort of married them all together to make sure that it fits our region and our community. And then did a fine detail on it a couple weeks ago. And so our policy platform now emphasizes housing for those earning between 80 and 245% area median income, supports wildfire resilient construction, and calls for more flexible state definitions of disadvantaged communities. We also addressed the importance of maintaining local control over land use, which was really important for Nevada, town of Truckee and both counties. And advocating for incentive-based rather than mandated approaches. We're going to be creating a advisory kind of committee that will be working with Steve Frisch to monitoring those bills. And we will have a communication set up for if a bill needs a letter of support, or if we want Steve to go down to Sacramento and do a public comment, we will do a yay or nay kind of vote through the committee. We are meeting in May 21st, and then we also have another strategic planning workshop in June that we're still trying to finalize dates. Anyone is more than welcome to attend our JPA meetings or any of our workshops. It's open to the public. It's like our meeting here, so if anyone wants to drop in and visit and monitor the agenda and see if it strikes your fancy, we want you to come and see what we're working on. Especially with this new potentially Alder Creek development site for housing. That's really exciting for us.
Thanks, Lauren. Any questions for Lauren?
Where is that site exactly?
Yeah, it's adjacent to Alder Creek Middle School on Highway 89. And what is the road that leads into Alder Creek?
Through Ivy.
East Alder?
It's Alder.
Alder.
The Alder.
Alder,
Yeah, it's two triangular plots that at least on, it would hold up to 76 units, and it's a mix of 2 to 3 bedroom units. That's like the max. It'll probably be smaller than that. And depending on what entitlement process we go through, that will affect the timeline of the project in general. But there's some benefits of doing housing development on school sites, because the state has made it where you can fast track projects and not get bogged down. But we're looking at going through the town of Truckee entitlement process. As of right now, we don't know for sure. But initially, that's where we think we're going to go with it.
Any other questions for Lauren?
Just verifying, there's, because the school district, the hospital, even some districts from the lake side are involved with this.
And we have, so our member agencies is Nevada County, Placer County, Town of Truckee, Truckee Donner PUD, the hospital, and us, and one more, TTUSD,
And-
yes.
Okay, and just wanted to verify any costs that are incurred are tied to the number of employees.
Oh, just our normal administrative
Right.
costs? Yeah, it's tied to, I give once a year our employee count.
Okay.
And then it's tied directly to the amount of employees per agency. So
Okay.
ours is, we typically have 23 to 25 employees, and I believe this year we had 23 at the time, and it's significantly smaller compared to the much larger districts.
Right, okay, just wanted to verify that. Thank you.
Lauren, I just wondered, in this one, you're talking about that they would be seeking funding, would we expect the JPA to come to us for?
When we get the feasibility from the financial consultant, where we actually understand the total cost of the project, how many members might want to be interested, we would have actual numbers to present to you guys. If you would like the airport district to be a partner on this project, there would be costs to it. We do want to, we believe, or we're being advised that a bonding structure would help fund half of it at least. We still have an approximate $30 million funding gap, so that will vary based off of the size, how many units we want, and how many partners want to participate, i.e. how many units do they want to have in that project. Some districts are more constrained as far as their funding. If they are able to contribute, they have more limitations on who those units could be made available to, just because of their funding structure. If they're dealing with restricted funding, they really only want it for their own employees. Whereas, for example, an entity like us, we could have it made available to our employees or the wider community. It all depends on the final numbers and your guys' appetite. And if you feel like that housing project could be an initiative for you guys to pursue. But there would be more of a longer term commitment because it's essentially participating on a 30-year loan.
Got it. Okay,
So way more information to come. This is just like surface level. We don't even have all the exact numbers and the timelines yet.
thanks. We'll ask for public comment at the end of all these reports. The Town of Truckee River Revitalization Steering Committee.
Yes, the RTOC in earlier this month was canceled. That was during the large winter storm. There was a receiver site meeting on the 17th. A couple of developers were there. The gist of the conversation was the 3 catalyst sites that were selected. One of those specifically is a potential relocation receiver site, and to get the information from that and to look at opportunities across the community, whether they're in private or in the public sector, to moving off the river. And a lot of frustration from some of the developers on how difficult it is to build and do things within the town of Truckee. There's an Economic Vitality Action Team meeting next week. We'll be looking at the floodplain rules and things that are within the town's control, not federal or state. We'll also be looking at legal non-conforming as well, some of those topics. That's all I have to report.
Questions for Jeff? Board? No questions for Jeff? Climate Transformation Alliance.
Other than the information presented here, our past quarterly meeting was held over Kings Beach, and it was focused on transportation, both around inside the basin and outside the basin. And we had various representatives there that presented from the Tahoe Regional Transportation Authority global plan and their update that's coming out right now to that plan, to the Palisades work that's going on in the TNT TMA organization that talks about it's a nonprofit supporting regional transportation as well. Great updates, good crowd at the meeting. I think it's a great continued success of a venue, of a forum, I should say, of folks that are interested in this community about reducing greenhouse gas emissions and having a collective discussion opportunity and get regular updates around what is happening in this region, along with those programmatics that are happening behind the scenes, working with Sierra Business Council along what's presented there with the community-wide dashboard of GHG emissions. Of course, that's not a perfect science when they have different people doing different studies at different time periods, but at least it's an effort to begin to show and reflect to the community in a very public way what the footprint of this North Lake Tahoe area looks like in the way of GHG emissions. That's all I have. If there's anything else, Greg?
Board questions for Rob? No board questions for Rob. Act attendance by board directors.
One update on the ACT meeting. I need to update this list. We've changed the June 11th meeting, the May 14th meeting to Fly Safe meeting, and Tower 101 is going to be our next month's meeting. We're moving aviation STEAM to the following month in June. So those two are switching, May 14th and June 11th. We're switching those two topics for the dates.
Okay. So so on the ACT meeting, do we want to find out who wants to go to this? I'll go to the Fly Safe because I need the credits. But any directors want to go to the ACT?
So May 14th will be Fly Safe, Tower 101 for the next one.
Right.
Just had a quick question on the Fly Safe. There was There was a meeting last month, and I knew there was a meeting, but I wasn't sure exactly when it was and what time it was, and I could not find it. I had to really dig for it on the website, and we were within a week of it. So I would just appreciate if it's on the front and center, just so I'm not digging around the website. I couldn't make it anyway, but.
We will make sure we include the board on the distribution list for invitations.
So question in terms of doing the quarterly noise meetings, that's July 9th, so should there October, should one of those also be another act?
Yeah, I didn't update this until we had the discussion today, but based on the feedback and discussion, it sounds like we're moving in that direction of programmatics of a quarterly ACT meeting being around noise. So I'll be updating that. Yes, thank you.
David, so Fly Safe will be May 14th. Yeah, I'd like to go.
Great.
Well,
Thank you.
cool.
And there's one tomorrow, too, right?
There is a Fly Safe event tomorrow in this room, starting at
5:30 p.m.
5:30. Thank you.
Outstanding speaker. Very impressive.
Is it AI?
Better than AI. It's a pilot that developed his own app for looking at takeoff and landing data with real-time risk assessment. He's also a researcher with the RAND Corporation and retired Air Force pilot.
6 o'clock?
5:30 p.m.
And there's a Zoom link for that as well. On the main homepage, you'll see a red tab that says Fly Safe, Fly Quiet. You click on that, in the Fly Safe tab, it'll have the details for this meeting on Thursday there.
Thank you. So the TNT TMA monthly update, is it just me or do we never get a monthly update on this?
This is the first month we didn't have an update, and it's due to some overlap with personnel and vacations and other conflicts. So
Okay,
I didn't have an update.
that's not something we want to remove from this. It's something we'll see
Something
regularly.
that we added several months ago. It is something we participate in. Our safety manager, Stacy, attends that meeting on our behalf as our representative. And for a couple months now, has reports in there. This was just one we didn't have due to a couple overlaps.
Okay. Any public comment on the board committee assignments? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Management team report, general manager's report.
I have information in the board report there as it's coming up here. Maybe just focused on the strategic plan, part of it there, the big diagram with the arrows. Just blow that up for a second. This does highlight some areas with the black arrows that we're currently focused on. Of course, these are our 4 focus areas for our strategic plan as it exists and approved for this year. That's not as clear on the screen as maybe it is in print. But there are several focus areas across those that we are currently focused on. One was the Fly Quiet program that we talked about today. There is an update to our strategic plan, which we have in process now. We've had one workshop. We have another one coming up here in May as an internal workshop with the board. Of course, there are a couple of things, the net zero goals. In my report, there is a couple graphs around our sustainability report for 2024, which is just being completed and finalized. I should have that out probably next week via email and on our website as a quantification of how we're doing across all of our different scopes, 1, 2, and 3. That was just a quick snapshot of one of the graphs in the report. And other areas on here is the aviation STEAM education. Jeff has been holding a number of meetings now around the different participants on the airfield and off the airfield that are engaged in some form of STEAM education associated with aviation. We do have this on our rolling agenda to bring back to the board, I believe in another month as a discussion item, to update the board on what the status of those discussions are, where we see opportunities to be more engaged beyond what we're currently doing with some of the on-airfield nonprofits. And so that discussion is coming forward to the board to get your guidance on where we could go next on that based on our our current developing discussions with a variety of participants. And of course, community wildfire mitigation, the board did address that this last month, approved a number of projects. I just held a meeting this morning with our fire professionals talking about long-term, large landscape planning. And so we just began discussing maps across the North Lake Tahoe area within the district boundaries on what areas are not being currently addressed or prioritized, that there is an opportunity to begin doing some planning effort around something that would significantly be beneficial to the greater community in the way of forest health and defensible space. So that is ongoing as well. And I will stop there unless there's questions on other items on the report, and then go on to Josh, who's online, with any legal updates he might have.
And no report for me this evening. Thank you.
All right, Jeff?
Lauren, by chance, do you have that the video ready? So we have. I did not put in the AVCON report because we hadn't held the event yet. But yesterday we had a BurnBot on field. Their wildfire mitigation. And so we have a short video. It's on our Instagram and Facebook. It'll be on our website this evening. And I could talk to it, but it's like a 15, 20-second clip, and I think it kind of self-explanatory. We're all counting on you, Lauren. Okay. Do we have volume?
I'm the co-founder and CEO of BurnBot. BurnBot's
Is there a volume to it? We'll give it one more try, and then I'll do a voiceover.
mission is to prevent destructive wildfire.
Well, so what you see here, up there. I'll just do the talk over. So that's Anakul. He's the co-founder and CEO of BurnBot. So him and Lee, who's the chief technology officer, saw a gap in wildfire mitigation. So it's a mix of Silicon Valley technology and robotics with old school forestry. And so he's talking about is what they've done. The device you see there is the actual BurnBot. It's a burn chamber. It drives over the land. You can see the burn trail it leaves behind it. Traditionally, it's very difficult to do controlled burns. There's about 1 million variables that have to line up with the perfect winds. You have to have an entire fire team there, the right fuels, everything. And with the BurnBot, with the burning chamber they have, they mitigate a lot of that risk, and you can have fire next to critical infrastructure. Very controllable behind the machine. You can touch it to the ground. I mean, it's pretty amazing. The other piece they have, and you'll see it in just a second, is the remote masticator. So it's a remote controlled mastication machine. Think of it like a small Bobcat skid steer. There it is. But it's used with remote control, which allows the operator to get a 360-degree view such that it can operate in neighborhoods, between houses, and really small areas. So we had about 50 people here for the demonstration across lots of different land managers and fire districts from California, Oregon, Nevada. You can see everyone here in the room yesterday. They did a demonstration yesterday. Today they're at the approach end of runway 29. They did 4 different prescriptions over there of various types of land treatments, and they're going to treat approximately 20 acres on the approach end of runway 29. So it's pretty exciting what they did. And so when you go home, it'll be on the website. Click on it, and you can hear Anakul talking about it. For the AVCON reports, as Rob discussed, we had a really good STEAM meeting. We also had a really good conversation outside the STEAM meeting with Nevada County and looking at potentially doing some type of career training education shadow day, the school district, and we're also going to meet up with a high school in Southern California that has successfully implemented the AOPA high school education plan for 9 years. They have 95 students with a full-time dedicated teacher, and there's a lot of grant funding in this space and not a lot of people taking the grant funding so we're going to see what we can do. It's a multiple year kind of thing. It's not something that we could wave a wand and it's going to be next school year, but we'll try to be catalyst best we can. We'll be in Airport Improvement Magazine next month for the short-term overnight hangar program. Operations were very typical for the month, nothing out of the ordinary. The last Fly Safe event, we had 50 pilots in the room, another 24 online. Already discussed tomorrow. Have a really good presentation on the That Looks About Right TLAR app. And I already talked about STEAM. We do on our webpage now have a STEAM calendar. So with all the stakeholders that we had in the room, we have a calendar that is just showing what all the different agencies, whether it's Mission to Mars or TTSA with a youth soaring day, school district, makerspace, it's all in one calendar. And the hangar wait list is grown again as we've opened it. The next item is the operations and comments report for this past quarter. I would say there's nothing significant to report. It's very typical, nothing out of the ordinary. What you will see that is different is on the very bottom. You have the pie charts. So on the far left, quarter. The middle one is year, and the far right is historic. The top three are operations. The bottom three are comments. So the bottom three in comments, it's green, green, and then purple. It's based on two people. So the green is now showing Martis Valley. That's because there's a new caller. And the historic with the purple, that person moved about a year ago. So you see these huge swings in noise comments. And it's two people. These are extreme outliers. So nothing to see here. If I was wearing my statistical hat, I would use, it's escaping me. What's the outlier? Standard deviations, we'd get rid of these swings, but we count everything. Any other organization would use standard deviation, we'd remove the extreme outliers, and you wouldn't see the big pie swing.
Bell curve.
Excuse me?
Bell curve.
Bell curve, yes. So that's all my comments, barring any questions.
Any questions for Jeff before we go to finance? No questions for Jeff. Kelly, Finance and Administration Report.
Good evening. After 3 months, here's our quarterly report. Total revenue 7.1 million with a budget of 6.7, so we're at about almost 400,000. Total expenses 2.6 million with a budget of 3.8, and net income of 3.8. We're about 1.5 million ahead of our budget. Our 2024 audit is nearly done. Working on the MDA right now, so we'll be here to present that to you next month in May. And in June, we'll have the annual report out for you and also on the website. We are going to meet Friday with representatives from our insurance company, from the underwriters, for all the hangar damage claim discussion, and hoping to come up with some kind of a resolution so we can move on with that. And I am working with the California Department of Transportation and the Aeronautics Division to see if I can get some more grant funding, perhaps for A2. It's like $10,000 for one of the grants and $150,000 for one of the other ones, but still something. So I'll keep you posted on that. Any questions?
Questions for Kelly? Kelly, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Should you and I be booking time for me to come in and do
We
this
should.
with you?
Yes.
Okay, so I will email you tomorrow.
Yeah, let me know your availability and we'll make it happen.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Do we have any public comment on the reports? No public comment. All right, future agenda priorities, meeting management. So do you want to take that, Rob, or do you?
Sure, you have the rolling agenda. We've added some updates on there. I think we will have more after our workshop for the rolling agenda. Of course, we'll update this based on today's meeting with follow-up on our noise protocol in the coming months as feedback, and we'll add that to the agenda, either for action or for further discussion or updates. And I'll probably start reflecting our ACT quarterly meetings on here as well as rolling agenda. Just as a reminder, those will be taking place with the topic of noise and annoyance. I think that's it for the rolling agenda items.
Any board questions on any public comment on the future agenda priorities, meeting management? Seeing none. Staff board member conference attendance reports. Who wants to go first?
I didn't go anywhere.
That was nice and succinct. Anything for Greg? Okay. I did.
Yeah, I went to the same conference you did, if you want to.
You could take that conference. I'll say that, yeah, I went to the Transforming Local Government with Rob and with also the Truckee town manager and another staff member from the town of Truckee. There were a few takeaways from that. I'm not entirely sure were intentional. One of them is that the recognition that we as a public agency, and I would apply this to the town of Truckee as well, do so much more with regard to community engagement than so many other municipalities do. And I think part of that, which I saw in that we were speaking about AI, I attended for the city of Stockton at this conference where they were looking into all of these code compliance operations, where they were sticking cameras on the sides of all of the city cars that would drive around, and then they would see code compliances using AI and fire off these like bang, 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 like all of these violations. And they were thrilled about how many violations had been caught from this. And I'm looking at this thinking, we would be absolutely crucified if we did anything like that in our community. And it made me realize that we have a community that's very sensitive because we're so emotionally connected to where we live. You know, nobody's here by default. We're here because we want to be here. And I think we have agencies that respond to that. So I think that helps us kind of jump ahead of some of these other things. The other event that I was at last Friday was a contingent of folks from this region went down to Congressman Kevin Kiley's office to deliver the resolutions that we had passed. It was an interesting meeting. I would say that Kevin Kiley is different in person than he is when the cameras are rolling. I think it was a good meeting. He was asking for specifics about which projects we had seen cuts or we anticipated cuts, and that he said with that list that he would look into the funding for that. So we were working on getting that list. He did seem responsive and understanding to our concern, and he seemed particularly interested in the idea that an airport had gone to the extent that we had gone to for fire mitigation. And seemed to recognize that was a sort of a barometer of how important this was in our region, that the airport is funding fire mitigation partnerships. So I thought that was good. And that's it for me on that. Rob, I heard you went to a conference too.
I did. I went to the same conference you did, as summarized. My big takeaway after sitting through many of the breakout sessions they had on specific achievements that were being highlighted from a number of different communities that were similar size to ours, bigger, smaller, whether it was working, the local government working with nonprofits to affect some kind of youth program or working with other local agencies. Every example that I heard about that were the case studies that were being used in a national conference, every one of them were things that we were doing. And it was just very eye-opening, like, yes, we're doing all the right things. We're not even a municipality, which is the primary focus of the conference. We're an airport district, a special district, but yet we are highly engaged in all these areas and being innovative and collaborative across our jurisdiction with other special districts and other municipalities. And so I thought it was a refreshing takeaway when I think about, are we doing well or are we kind of behind the curve? And it was, as we talked about, David talked about here, is I think we're doing really good here, and I'm really proud of that.
Anybody else from staff? No conference. Any public comment on our staff and board member conference attendances? All right, we'll close public comment. Any board member announcements? No board member announcements. Our next scheduled meeting is May 6th. It is a special board meeting where we have a strategic discussion, 1 p.m. here. And the rest of the meetings are on the agenda. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks.